Back to our lead story today, President Obama's plan to overhaul the nation's regulatory structure. Now, he'll lay out all the details of his plan later today in Washington. But yesterday, he gave our Al Hunt a preview. So here's how the president described what he's planning to do.
There are a series of components to it. Number one, we're going to make sure that we've got a systemic regulator, somebody who can oversee the entire system, and when you start seeing the kinds of risks that we saw being taken in this last crisis, that we can catch it before the crisis occurs. We're going to make sure that we are regulating the non-bank sector as well as the bank sector. So the huge growth in the securitization markets, that has been a major source of problems, and we're going to make sure that there aren't any gaps in coverage. Consumers and investors, we've got to make sure that we have somebody who is focused and responsible for protecting consumers, whether it's on subprime loans for their mortgages, for their credit cards, that investors have additional protections. And the problem is right now you've got consumers and investors whose the agencies that are responsible also have responsibilities for the integrity of the institution. So you've got divided attention. We want to make sure that we've got consolidated focus on consumer and investor protection.
But when you talk about consolidation, you had, during the campaign, I remember, said the financial system was plagued by competing financial regulatory agencies. Yet under your plan, there's still going to be more than a half dozen. Did those competing interests stifle reform?
No, we're still going to have some significant consolidation, but we always understood that we were going to have to build off of a foundation that already existed. It didn't make sense for us to create a whole new SEC when the SEC already has some top-notch professionals who do what they do very well. But what you're still going to see is some agencies are going to be eliminated. In some cases, some of their functions are going to be taken out of that particular agency and put into another. The goal is to integrate the system, make sure that there are not any gaps, and to make sure that we have a updating of the regulatory system that worked back in the 1930s but doesn't work with the kinds of financial instruments and the kinds of global capital markets that exist today.
Now, regulatory overhaul was not the only topic yesterday. The president also talked about the country's economic outlook. Take a look at what he had to say about unemployment.
Do you think unemployment will reach 10%?
Yes.
You do this year?
Yes. I think that what you've seen is that the pace of job loss has slowed, and I think that the economy is going to turn around, but as you know, jobs are a lagging indicator, and we've got to produce 150,000 jobs every month just to keep pace, just to flatten this out.
So when will it start to come down?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, then I probably would have made a lot of money before I became president. I didn't. But I do think that you're starting to see the engines of the economy turn. It's going to take a long time. We had a huge deleveraging that took place. But I'm confident that if we take the steps that are necessary on health care, on energy, on education, if we get a strong financial regulatory system in place so that people have confidence in the markets again, that we will end up seeing recovery.